You must be present.
To win it, right? You got to be in it
Yep.
to win it. Okay, we're going to start.
Yeah.
So let me introduce Ben. Your last name is?
Cruz, I'm Ben Cruz.
And so why don't you tell us, and I'm Donna Girot, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself in a professional capacity?
Yeah, as professional as I can. So I'm Ben Cruz. I'm a production specialist here at CMAC. I have a background in multimedia. That's my major from Fresno State. And my background for work, at least, is both broadcast and film. So I'm very broadcast heavy, very film heavy. And then I have these two little goofy notes of I am a past film race failure. I have not been able to ever complete a film race because I always something last minute goes wrong. So that's why I decided I'm gonna take over CMAX and do it better. But it's not better. It's the same thing. And then also I just like dogs, just in general fact for me. But yeah, I host the film race with CMAC. It's a various hours. There's nothing dedicated for it. On the slide, I'm just showing you what we give out to our participants. We basically, on the day, we tell everyone, show up to CMAC. This is the time. We give them a sign-up sheet. If you sign up early, cool, you get your team name. We give them a title, a quote, a prop, and we just give them all the rules on a piece of paper that they pick up for the day. They're not allowed to touch it. We give out donuts. It's all good for that. But we also print out a bunch of blanks, so they'll be missing the team name up here. And that's basically how we get the film race done. Last year we did 72 hours. This has gone, it kind of varies on how the next year's gonna go, dependent on how successful we are. For example.
Can I stop you for a second? Okay, I'm confused about the team name. You get to have your own team name, or?
Yeah, they choose their own team names.
Okay. And why 72 hours?
We did 72 hours because so this was the first film race, at least from CMAC, after I believe it was a 4-year hiatus, so since before the pandemic. They've done 24 hours, 12 hours, and then 60 hours. I decided 72 hours just because it seems like a nice 3-day process. You give them 1 day to write a script, 1 day to film, and then 1 day to edit. That was my thought process for everything.
Great thought process.
Yeah. And like I said, I've a past film race failure. That issue of the 12-hour film race, I was straight out of high school. I wasn't able to do that. Catching the bus, filming the locations, very much killed a lot of our time. So I've been just trying to give everyone the chance as much as they can to get their stuff done, to let them get a screening in, and let them get just their voice out there, essentially.
So you're creating equitability by the
basically,
length
yeah.
of time.
And then, like I said, this year we had 60 people apply or essentially sign up to be a part of the film race. I believe we've only got 30 submissions off of them, so that's around 50%. Really good, but still, it's that 50%. So I'm just thinking again next year, how could we do it better?
What have you decided? What do you think you're going to tweak?
So you know how you guys do your film race for a whole month?
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, that similar approach of maybe giving them the choice of what 48 hours they decide, giving it less time.
The floating, yeah.
Yeah, so giving them less time, but they get to choose their time slots. Because even as a community access center, people want to use your equipment for this stuff. If they all show up for a 1 weekend, it might be checked out. We've had a lot of people ask about equipment the day of, and we just simply couldn't provide it because stuff was already checked out. We want to just give everybody as much of an opportunity as much as we can when we do this.
Very cool. That is a big issue, actually, equipment availability. So what season do you do this in?
So that's a good question, actually.
Oh, good.
We've typically done this late summer, early fall, simply for because it's the weather. We get a lot of people who attend. For you guys who attended a CMAC, you know the space inside is very limited. For example, this 72-hour film race, our screening had 180 people show up to the building. That is very much not to the fire code for who was allowed in that building. But with the fall weather, we could have it outside. We had the mistake last year. It was summer. It was a 110-day. There was no way we're going to let people outside in that heat, and we had them all inside. But this year, we're thinking about early fall for that reason, to let people be outside, get us the opportunity to let them be cool outside, and as well give a chance to the students who want to attend or who want to participate. So they'll just be starting either their semester at the colleges, or they'll be starting at in the high school level. Yeah.
And you don't want to have 2 showings because you're giving away awards?
Yes, we don't want to do multiple showings because we were giving out awards. And also we want to have everyone there, everyone embrace each other, everyone promote that. Another thing that we do is that we do screen all of the entries. And we just, at the very end, have an award ceremony for the last, I believe, 30 minutes of just being like, this is who got first, second, third, this is who won the youth category, and their respective first, second, third, and that's it.
And who judges?
As of right now, the judges are both ACM, CMAC staff and CMAC board members. We try to get our board involved.
Nobody gets angry.
Yeah.
I've had the organization's racist, people can take things personally, and so we have independent industry judges that nobody knows who they are, because we don't want to have any impact on judging. So
yeah,
it's a small recommendation to you.
Yeah, we haven't had that issue. We've had. Oh,
you will.
I figured we will eventually. But that is actually a really nice thing to know. I mean, that's probably something we should. You
stumble through these things each year and you just tweak your program. You start it small and then you're like, oh, I can do this better next year, or you're changing the hours. Very cool.
Yeah, it's always adapting, and we're not ashamed of that. But yeah.
Do you have any other cool images that you can share?
Not for the film, not for the film race, but we also at CMAC. This is a competition-based one. We also do one that's not a there you go. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're screening. We're also live to this channel, and we're live to our YouTube channel. So there's some people who make the films and then immediately go elsewhere to either work, travel. We're trying to give everybody the opportunity, and then also they can use this as part of their resume or something that they want to show off. And then what we do for the winners is that we just highlight them on our website, on our dedicated film race page. They're on the top of the screen. They get that recognition of you got first, along with the awards that they win.
Do you film the award ceremony?
Yeah, so we film the whole screening. Everything's live all together. That's actually a screenshot of what this is from, where Brian was announcing the award ceremony and telling everybody what was going on. Yeah.
Question, sorry. Do you have to be a member for you guys in order to?
No. It's open to the public. It could be anyone, everyone. You don't even have to be within our county. We had people from, not SAC, from Merced in Northern, and then people from Bakersfield come enter. We're just keeping it open to everyone. Kind of makes it easier too on our side, because now you don't have to double check people, make sure they're not lying about location or where they live or anything.
Do you specify a region? Like I'm finding that we've been doing Sac County, and I mean the whole festival is called a place called Sacramento. So we're trying to encourage, our movies all have something about Sacramento. So when it goes out into the world, it's basically doing something great for our region. But now I have 5 other counties that are like, this is a cool thing. I want to submit a script. And so I let half of the filmmakers be out of county, and I'm sort of regretting it. So I'm curious what... Basically,
what we have them do is they're more promoting CMAC. That's their prop, is always some sort of CMAC merch.
Cool.
So stickers, we had a very limited run of our van. We made it into a tattoo last year. So some people use that as a tattoo prop, and that's one part of our requirement. We're in the talks right now too, because we are looking for sponsors to help with the awards. Last year we got sponsored by our local photography store. They sponsored the whole youth category, where they gave out a $250 gift card to the youth category. We're in the talks of maybe, instead of having it also just be CMAC props, it's their stickers. They have a bunch of stickers, they have socks, they have merch, promoting our sponsor that way. So there's a sponsor slot that if you pay this amount of money, here you go. You get this in the screening. Maybe it's a quote. We're in the talks of that.
Can I interject? I was in a 48-hour once where we each got a case of this new drink. And it was so funny because we didn't get a bottle, we got a case. So people would be like in a kitchen and open up and they'd all be like lined up like this. It was so comical to get a whole case of drinks, so something to consider.
Yeah.
Interesting that you described the screening being a kind of an issue for you because of how many people want to go there.
Yeah.
Too many for CMAC, it sounds like, if you want to be legal. And outside,
Yeah.
of course, it could be screening high. So therefore, have you tried to maybe check with a Tower Theater in Fresno as a possibility? Because what they're doing in Sacramento, I mean,
Don't steal my thunder. Let him finish his thing, and I'll tell you some ideas. This is all about just pushing ideas at you guys.
Yes, we've had that idea. We have another Crest Theater in Fresno that
Cool.
the big thing that I like to promote about
Cost a
it
fortune.
is that it used to be owned by Mel Brooks, but it's now taken over by a family. They're trying to keep it alive as much as they can. Everything in there is original. Their AC broke last year. And there's no, like, again, it was already hot outside. We're not gonna make them go into a hot room that there's no air at all.
Totally.
And then,
And there's cost.
yeah, there's the
Unless there's
cost.
quid pro quo, and so I'll give you some ideas of that.
And so, yeah, like, we're in talks too with, potentially working with our local Unified, and they have a big theater, the Fresno High Theater. We're talking about maybe if we have like a big student category, and maybe if we got students more involved,
Yeah.
would we, again, quid pro quo, we do this for your guys' students. Their CTE programs they get their hours matched by a state funding for being involved with us. So they get that out of us, and then we get to have the room, the theater for the night.
And you thought you wouldn't have enough to talk about.
At least for my slides.
This is cool stuff, right?
But yeah, and then there was another theater that we were in talks of, but they wanted us to sell tickets, and we don't sell tickets as of right now. So we were trying to do free tickets as much as they can, and then they wanted, I believe, half of all ticket sales.
And rightfully so.
Yeah,
Yeah, take a question?
Sorry, I'll be quick.
No, you're good.
You can be slow.
Run submission fees and as far as prizes go, is that?
No, we try not to run submission fees. In fact, the way we do it as of right now is kind of rudimentary. We just do a Dropbox links that's open within, only open within that last day, and it immediately cuts off as soon as it hits, let's say 12 o'clock. We are looking into using Film Freeway. Film Freeway is really great, and it's even better for the judges. But it is something we're just looking into. Film Freeway is for those who want to do it for free and keep it free to the public. It is free, except you have to pay $100, basically $100 initially, just so that they know you're not a scammer. You're not just trying to get money from something. But so we're in talks of maybe doing that, just make it easier for all the back end for ourselves. But other than that, kind of the Dropbox way works. It does get really complicated when some filmmakers submit it and then there's an error, and then it's either on Dropbox end or maybe they did it. So then it comes, for example, last film race, somebody submitted it, but it cut off halfway. It went to black screen. It was a Dropbox issue. Dropbox didn't play with the format correctly, So we just gave them the chance of like, go ahead and just resubmit, or send us the link privately, and then we'll download it again.
I assume you have tax specs for submissions as well?
Tell them what type of file you,
Yeah, we tell them, give them everything. Everything's, we try to keep everything for broadcast, so 1080/30, make sure you could do that. If not,
that's actually a big fight for, all our filmmakers get mad when we give them TV specs,
yeah.
right? It's a constant fight. They want to do everything in 4K.
And
Anyway,
even then, we tell them because of,
biggest decision you have, right?
when we do our playback for the screening, we do it out of our ATEM, so it's going to convert it to 30 anyways. So I just promote it as, hey, if you want it to look as best as it can when we screen it, do it just 1080/30, or you're going to get dropped frames, or just weird artifacting.
And how long are the films?
We keep them under 5 minutes.
Right, so you might not have a drop frame or a voiceover issue when it's
Yeah.
a 5-minute film. So sometimes you can sort of fudge. We tell them, go ahead, shoot in 4K, do it. It's gonna be large format, but we can't handle your 4K. Do that for film festivals afterwards. Convert it then to 1080 and life will be good, right?
Yeah.
So-
And that's what we do. And then along with, again, a Dropbox is an issue. That's not something that's something that's known. We allow them to come in physically with hard drives and stuff to drop them off.
We actually celebrate that. We take a picture of them. They're like,
Yeah, we were trying to give them CMAC flash drives to do so. I believe there were 16 gigs, so plenty for a 5-minute film. And along with, it's something that they get to keep. But lucky enough, everyone's doing stuff last minute, so they'll all try to do it online.
Yeah, but you can run into a lot of traffic that way.
Yeah.
There's almost always the next day, I'm sort of getting files from someone who is having a meltdown or had a problem. We're not trying to diss the filmmakers, we're trying to support the filmmakers. I was wondering if we're running out of little time. Does anybody have any other questions for Ben specifically?
Yeah.
So is there any requirements as in, this is an iPhone film only? Or like, how do you deal with, like, some people have access to a really good equipment, especially if you're a studio that doesn't have state-of-the-art equipment to use, you have to
So,
use it all along?
really good question.
That's Holly's question, by the way.
Holly, thank you, Holly. We had that as an issue. Quality does show a lot. We had our student film, for example. There's no way a child did this, but there's no way we could prove it. It was shot on, like, I'm pretty sure a Red. There's no way a child was able to use a Red camera. Granted, his father is.
Yeah,
Uh,
Daddy was
his,
helping.
his father is in the media production realm, and the child that submitted was never in the film. So he could have been the director. We did say that it's okay to assist, but not to do it for them. And again, there's no way for us to tell without us getting BTS footage or standing right beside them.
It's the same parent who whittles the race car for their
Yeah.
Boy Scout, for those races. You just,
Kind of related to that question, I mean, what demographics do you see coming out to do these? And is there like because there's a program in Santa Barbara for high school and college students to go through this 6-month process to make their own film, but they all have to use the same equipment. They all do it on iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of I guess,
That's cool.
levels the playing field a little bit. So yeah, I'm just curious if things come up about what Caleb said.
Yeah, I want to target more high school age students. When I was in high school, I wish I had more opportunities like this. That's kind of how I do most of my things, is I wish I had this growing up. But most of our demographic that does enter are 20-somethings to 30-somethings. Some of them have their own equipment. Most of them have their own equipment. If not, they're CMAC members and they use what we have.
and it evolves. People, after they've been doing it a few years, they're like, I want to buy that piece of equipment, or, yeah. So let's switch off, right? And I'll start talking about, I'm going to go over 4 different ideas, okay? So, let's see. And they're ones that I experienced. My name is Donna Girot. I'm the executive director of Red Access Sacramento. And we have in the audience one of the people who started our film festival on steroids. I'm going to show you a couple of ideas that are smaller organizations. My last organization was called CATV in White River Junction, Vermont. And we were a unique station where we had contracts with both, there's like rivers, right? And we were in a valley, and so it was New Hampshire and Vermont, which is a very weird place to be because Vermont's very like, we're socialists and we love each other and we'll take care of each other. And New Hampshire's like, live free or die. So the combination of people is dramatic, and Dartmouth's there, which was a traditionally very male, white dominated school that has a lot of foreigners now coming in. They're trying to undo. So the people around are an odd bunch of people, which makes for a great amount of creativity. And in the town that I worked was also the Center for Cartoon Studies, where people were getting their master's and PhD in graphic satire, and they would be sitting around in coffee, you know, like they do their graphics, and then be sitting around bored. And so we would sort of like, hey, you want to be in a film? Hey, do you want to, you know, so we had an interesting variety of people. So I'm going to show you a few ideas. We'll start with one that wasn't my idea. We'll go over here. Now, in Vermont, there's a lot of little stations, and they're very robust because there's lots of mountains, so that we, you know, it's cooperative. And they did something called Crowdsource Vermont. So you can go on to, I have a link at the bottom, but basically in Burlington, Vermont, which is the state capital, is something called Media Factory. Very hip organization. And it's a combination of a couple of stations that have come together, and they're the hip place to be. And what they did was, and you could probably borrow these from them, they took feature films and they divided the scripts up into segments, and then they went around to other stations and said, hey, will you participate with us in some capacity? Maybe you have middle school, summer camps, or maybe teens, or maybe you want to do a family thing, and you'd give a part of the script to that family, and that family might do it with sock puppets, and the next one might use Legos, and someone else might do a dramatic interpretation of it, and then they put them all together, and it's the most bizarre, but they're familiar films that you know. And the hardest part about that is some of the teams ghost you, right? And then all of a sudden you have to fill, your team has to fill those scenes, right? But it's a long, drawn out thing, and they realized, oh, we just need to communicate earlier and throughout the process with the teams so that they remember that they've committed to this, and give them samples of how they can do it. So you can turn that into a Most Creative Interpretations Award. You can air it at each one of your stations. We won't call them stations, media centers. So it's a way to sort of collaborate with like the next media center, or your region's media centers, right? Or with schools. What it does is you benefit from the collaboration, right? You're basically opening doors for yourself. Okay, so there's that. So go on to Media Factory. They are very cooperative. They'd probably just give you the scripts the way they did it and give you advice. Now, this is one of my favorite things. Never wear plaid when you're doing a film presentation. I was like all over the place in that one. So the Halloween-a-thon was a short film thriller competition, right? Everyone does some sort of Halloween thing, right? But you weren't allowed to show blood. It was not gore. Gore was not allowed. We did summer camps for middle schoolers, and then they were all stoked and wanted to, learn more on how to make a film. So we had a middle school category, we had a high school category, and we had an adult category. And it used to be a 5-minute film. Our goal was to collaborate with other organizations. So we went to Dartmouth College and said, hey, you got this super cool theater and these film screenings. Could we use your theater for no money? And they were like, oh, we don't collaborate with local organizations. We're too posh. And I said, yeah, but you're not getting the local people coming into your theater, and you want to expand your audience. I heard you say that. And I was like, so what we can do is bring in people who would never have stepped foot in your theater, and we'll do a little survey at the end. And it was like a 3-question survey. Dartmouth got all excited because then we were constantly bringing in a lot of people so that they could discover the theater. So and what ended up happening is when I left, they decided, screw Dartmouth, we're going to do our presentations during the Halloween parade. So the first thing you do, everybody dresses up, it's a lovely affair, and they all go to this film festival before they go and march in the parade. So they found another way to, create this collaboration. So our goals were basically, we're trying to keep middle schoolers into becoming teen counselors, right? So we help the middle schoolers make their first films. We help them with the editing. They make all the decisions. We just do the hands. The teens do it by themselves. They become the camp counselors for the middle school camp, and then they're emotionally invested. They become interns. I always saved money in my budget to make sure that when they returned from college, they would have a summer job, right? And then they come back from college and they're like, oh, when can I work full time? So I created basically a way through this film festival, I created a way to create community, right? So that's an idea. There's way too many words on this, I can pass it to you. But what's unique about this one is that you really have to look at your crew and say, who's into this and how creative of a crew do I have? In my prior station, I didn't have a creative crew. But in this station, I had like this wildly creative guy. So what we started doing, and this is how it became super cool, we started doing a promo. So I'm just going to show you guys the promo. And the promos were so good, everyone wanted to participate. I don't know. It's not an actor. Just any person. We went to the dump and asked them if we could take a refrigerator and cut out the back, and we shot through the refrigerator. I was a little worried about the Freon, and then we returned it to the dump. That's where I was shooting in the afternoon. So you hear the pulsing audio. So the effort that what it did was it brought joy to my crew, right? So they would be like next year, like, oh, I got an idea. So every one of those promo videos we did was thematic. We would give a line of copy, like, who did you turn off the light? Like in the beginning, we would do some compelling line that people could interpret, right? After a while, after I left, it was like, this year, it's like, end of times. To me, it's not as, sorry, I don't mean to be critical. It's not as nuanced and interesting. But the idea is if you have the energy and creativity or you can even ask a local college to collaborate with if you have some little idea, it could be a short video. The first video we did, we just had a boyfriend from one of my crew members. He was like the foot, and he looked like he was on a gurney, and then his foot twitched, right? And we said, make a killer movie. So you can make it as short as you want. Hold on. And although the graphics didn't come out well in the upper corner, for some reason the typography didn't translate. There's her husband's feet now. He proposed to her right after that, which I think is funny. And as you can see, did you leave the light on? It was just basically a year that we didn't have time to do something, so we just found a piece of art and modified it and did little scary things. And what happened is it became super popular because of the amount of effort we put into the promotions, right? Another thing that we did is everyone does like a 48-hour film slam, right? But we realized that people are really stressed by them. So what we did was we said, okay, well, what happens if we do a 48-hour? Everyone comes and gets their genre, and we would put like index cards, and they would pick one, and it was like, oh, I got drama, I got sci-fi. And they had an hour to schmooze and negotiate to switch genres. And it was the most interesting meeting, because everybody was really like, no, I like the one I have. The minute they walked out that door, they had to tell us what genre they had. Then they got to pick, over the course of a month and a half or 2 months, they got to pitch which 48 hours they wanted. They called my cell phone a few days before and said, okay, Friday at 7 o'clock, we're starting. And I'll be like, okay, I'll have my cell phone on then. And they would call me at 7 o'clock. Oh my God, if I didn't answer in the first nanosecond, they were all freaked out. And then I would tell them what their prop is, their line, their character, whatever we were doing that year. And then I would time them. And they had to return it in 48 hours. And that was super cool, because people got to, get their act together. And then this way, the return on investment, they were able to actually finish, right? Like
Yeah.
Finishing is the hard part. And sometimes they would call me because they had my cell then, they would call me in the weekend and say, we're imploding or something. I would give a piece of advice. So the theme that we did with 48 hours, you can see we got goofy. We made like paper mache. It's basically filmmaker versus time. It's the irony is I used to be the global marketing manager of Seiko, so I could do a chronograph pretty easily, right? So that series, again, we did the same thing. We hooked up with the White River Indie Film Festival. We timed ours to go with their film festival, and they gave us free time in the Barrett Theater during, they were renting the theater for a week, right? So they gave us a slot, not the most convenient slot. It was always like Sunday afternoon or something. But it was free, and it was an amazing theater, so people felt special, right? And we did awards. And again, I'd like to show you this promo is even shorter. But what ends up happening is you end up finding people who are really good actors because they want to participate.
All right. Got any questions for the members of the press? You over there. Yeah.
Do you think the challenger actually has a shot at the title?
Does he have a shot at the title? My boy calls the shots. Doesn't change any of the facts here that my man is going to kick your aspect ratio back to 4:3. Oh, you know what? Your boy is going to be lights, camera, traction. There's a saying that time heals all wounds. Not at all true, folks. Time causes all wounds. Okay, you heard the old saying, spring forward, fall back. My boy's going to spring forward, and you're going to fall back permanently. Well, why doesn't your man speak for himself, or is he a silent film? Oh, don't give me that, my boy. He shows, he doesn't tell.
The clock is stuck, and he's going to continue to.
I don't want to hear that.
Ready to film
Okay. The gentleman who has spearheaded these things is somebody who, my predecessor, he tried applying for this in our community center 7 times. And my predecessor didn't value his crazy creativity. He'd like wear women's clothes that were too short, and he would, staple Barbie dolls to stop signs. And I was like, we need him. And from it, he's evolved into the key person. And if you wanted to use these, I bet you he would let you, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Ask another center, hey, I really liked your video. Could we, rip it off? Could you give it to us and we finish? Okay, so those are 2. Anybody have any questions so far?
I have a question.
Please.
On that first one, was that Vermont perhaps?
Yeah, both of those were.
Existing major film scripts and people were.
Yeah. So
Copyright issues?
I think fan fiction, that kind of interpretation has never been challenged. So that's a question for the Burlington Media Factory.
I could answer that too. So CMAC was a part of the crowdsourced cinema this year. For crowdsourced cinema, the way from what I understand, it's basically you don't use their music. You're using the script. You're letting the people do their own interpretation. That's fine. That's as long as you don't use the music and stuff that's gonna actually get you copywritten. It's all good. And also, no one's really gonna, it's an artist's interpretation, you should be clear. And, yeah.
Remember way back when there was a bit of a tiff between the folks of Star Wars and the folks of Hardware Wars, if anybody remembers. A terrific spoof. And I think there was threats of lawsuits and all that.
I love those spoofs.
Eventually they went away when somebody pulled Lucas aside and said, come here, look at this.
Yeah,
I mean-
just let them do.
And Lucas called off the lawyers. But,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to know if there's
Right, there's nothing better than having your creative work into the, basically the zeitgeist of a community, right? So this is the one that we do now at Access Sacramento, and there's so many reasons why it exists, and it is a year-round program. Okay, so we used to just it's a film festival, right? And so I took a step back when I first got there and said, if we increase the number of workshops, if we give them better equipment, because we have a growing independent filmmaker, family, right? Maybe there's 500 people who, I don't know, Marty will have a better idea because he runs a nonprofit about the film industry locally. So we basically, I took a step back and I said, look, this is more than that, right? So I grouped our workshops together. I advertised our script writing competition. And I created just this I created in Canva. So basically in the winter, there's a script competition. There's actually, I simplified it, right? There's actually workshops. There's a script writing workshop, short form workshop, and we found somebody who is really good at teaching script writing workshop, and now she's published a book, so now it even legitimizes her more, and I have to pay her more. Okay, and then in the spring, we do, so 10 people win, right? And then in the spring, we do more workshops. So to the right are samples of some workshops. In the middle is just sort of part of our timing from our website. And then, so there's 10 people. We have independent judges. I do two secreted judges for every 10 scripts. So if I have 80 scripts, I have to have 16 judges. It's a bitch, right? But I don't want a single judge to judge, and it's a numbering system. We have a rubric, and you will have access to all this stuff. You just give me your business card, or we'll write on a piece of paper what your email address is. But basically, we have a master timeline, event timeline. We have emergency contacts, liability waivers, all about insurance and permits with the city and the county, what your digital formats should be with your final project, generic performance releases, music releases, networking, organizations, what specialty awards we have. So we have I say to the 10 filmmakers, congratulations, you're a winner. But you have a day to decide whether you want to participate, because we're not going to call you a winner unless you're willing to invest your time and money, little money, in creating this film. We're not going to create the film for you. We will mentor you through the process. We will give you deadlines. And in the end, we're going to blow $10,000 and give you the best premiere you have ever had. And so usually about half of them are newbie filmmakers, and half of them are existing filmmakers. And we see repeat filmmakers because there's some people who are just really good at writing scripts, right? And the other thing we do is then they have to say, yes, I will invest. I'm scared. I will invest emotionally. And they always ask me, how much is this going to cost me? And I was like, how many scenes do you have? How many actors do you have? Because that dictates how long this is going to take and how many times you have to feed the crew. And that's pretty much the only expense they have, insurance and feeding the crew. So then we have, which is the most important part, we announce to the world that the 10 have won. And then we have a community cast and crew call where any person in the county and out of the county can participate. And so, let's see, do I have a picture of this? Okay, cast and crew call. All right, so if you can see the bottom picture, there's a lot of people, right? So first, the top picture is, I said blah, 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 and here's the 10 filmmakers. I read their log line. I have them come up, and they talk about not their film, but the type of people they think they need to make it happen. Because everyone in the audience wants to either be an actor or a crew member, right? Or they're just curious. Okay, and so they listen for a little while, then they go to each one of the filmmakers' tables, and the filmmaker gets inundated. They're like, and some of the filmmakers might already have their key players. They've have friends that they know. And then they gather on sheets of paper contact information, which they then share with me, so I know who to advertise to when it's time for the premiere. And then they step before the camera. We have 3 cameras, so we're filming this whole thing. It's a show. They step before 3 other cameras with a sheet, right? And they're like, I'm John Doe, and we have a whole series of types of jobs. They just get to circle it, but they get to say, hey, I've never participated before, but I know how to make spaghetti. So if you want me to be one of your spaghetti makers, I can do. A woman actually said that, right? So and then somebody was like, yeah, be part of our crew. So you need a behind-the-scenes photographer, right? Somebody who can go click, 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 and you think you can do it, but you can't, right? You need someone specifically who's taking pictures while you're executing. So I encourage that greatly. And so what they do is then I give the raw footage to each one of the filmmakers. So they have a list of people that they can't remember who was who. And then they have footage, and they go, oh, this is so helpful, because I remember I wanted that person, right? And this is where we also coordinate with Futures Explored, which are adult students who have different disabilities, and we're trying to make sure they get a spot on the crew. We want them to have working experience. So it's a way to also give back for an equitability thing. Anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Am I boring everybody? Okay. And then an important element is that they have to create a poster. And where we're failing is we don't have a poster class, but they could do it in PowerPoint. They could do it in Canva. They could pay someone to do it. Some people like $50. I went to India. They made me a poster. One of these posters, the one that says "In the Shadows," every year I get that one for a different film. So I don't know who the one person is who's dropping in different images. So they have to give us 2 posters. In the beginning, they can use any graphic, right? Because they haven't shot yet, which gets them thinking about their representation out to the community. I put that on our website, and I use that as a promotional tool. Some of them are horrific, but I use that as a promotional tool. And then eventually, they need to give me a final poster. And what we demand is that they include our little wreath, right? Some of them are like, no, I'm a minimalist. And I'm like, dude, the amount of money I'm spending on this, you're gonna put my wreath on your poster. Okay, so you can see here's a few of the posters from the last couple of years. And then as you can see in the back of the room, I use them to create a poster for our event, right? So and so this is always a little problematic timing-wise, because I want to make sure they've shot their footage, and usually they shoot it through the summer and they aren't done until the end of July. So some of them will go ahead and prepare it for me right away and never have to change it. But I need all of them in order to make my poster. And my poster turns into a program, right? I have an advertisement on the back. The Buskey group always helps us. You can't have them they live down the street from us. Yeah. Okay.
Our home has been a set for 3 different films.
Mine too. They're like, we can't find a location. And then I come in the next day and I'm like, whoa, it smells like a gym in here, Yeah. So I make an introduction, and I don't put pictures of the board. I don't put pictures of myself. It's all about making the person who's watching feel important, that they are contributing. Their ticket price that they paid is contributing to this happening next year. Right? So they're making it the most important donation by being a viewer. And then I do the log lines of what each one of them is, and then there's the poster. right? And then I have flat versions for people who are attached to the families of the filmmakers. So you figure for every filmmaker, there's probably 20 people in their immediate family, and then you have their crews. It could be 10 people, it could be 15 people, and they'll bring a guest. So we have a theater of about a little over 900 seats, and we usually get between 700 and 800 people to come to the event, right? And we did remote for a while, but it wasn't so successful. But the idea is you could do anything you want, but I have samples if you guys want to take away samples. I do create 2 posters, and let me show you. Okay, so here's the premiere. And you can see one in the middle photo, one poster is on the podium. So we don't do a fancy skinny leg podium. We like slap one on because we're filming it, right? And one poster, if you see in the bottom, these 2 little ladies are like, this is great. So we do a foam core poster. And then we use those in our hallway. We have the laminated one, so when people come down the hall in a community center, they see something that we do, and we have one in our office, and we drag it around. They get pretty beat up. But one of the reasons we ask people to give us a poster, right? They give them our poster art so we can use it in Facebook ads and constantly trying to sell tickets, is then we blow it up. Right, so we blow up their poster, ignore this, right? And you can see, then we frame it, we go to Michael's during a sale and online, and I'm constantly a year ahead. It's like, if that year I got grant money, I'm going to buy double Michael's poster, so for next year, right? And then we have a local printer, and they print one of each one of the 10, so it costs me almost nothing. They do a really good job, and as part of the evening, we give them a framed poster. They get picture opportunity. They go up to the podium. They get a few minutes to thank all the people and places that had helped them. They get space in the hallway coming in, so like teams of people will meet at that spot, or after they will go out and get a drink afterwards, right? So they get table space. And then there's a step and repeat. And we have an interviewer. So we have a host of a show who wants to be a professional interviewer, and we're like, okay, Sky, we'll hire you, and you learn how to do red carpet. And he realized, this is really hard, because you can barely hear what someone's saying. So we have a team of 3 doing red carpet. You can see Sky there talking to somebody else a couple of times. And so now, my board member who co-hosts with me retired from the board, and so Sky immediately was like, can I be the co-host? And he asked me like 7 times, and I was like, dude, your style is too like, I'm laid back. I was like, I need high energy. And so he's come at me with like 5 different ideas. Like, you make it hard for him, right? He's come at with me, and I was like, okay, you're gonna be the co-host. You're gonna be the man. And so he's very excited. Whereas other people on my board have always been like, let's get a famous person, let's get the local celebrity. And I was like, no, I want someone who uses our community media services passionately. And I want them to get up and say, greetings, hey, I'm the host of blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I love Access Sacramento, and this is why. Right? I don't need the local celebrity they've seen every time, the newscaster who doesn't give a hoot about us, right? So to me, passion is, we're communicating with people who have never, ever participated. And then the hardest part, which you don't realize, are the graphics. So we have to make between 40 and 60 flat graphics for the evening. So you can see there's 3, best actor, then all the candidates, and then the winner. Right? And off to the other side, we decided to do a Hall of Fame. Marty, stand up, please. Marty is one of our Hall of Fame recipients. Basically, somebody who participated and made it possible year over year. I'd like to honor Sue Buskey this year, but we're having it on her birthday, so she doesn't want to participate.
What a birthday present. She doesn't go out of town then. One of the years she was out of town.
We'll, you and I will talk. We'll surprise her. Okay, and it's hard, it's difficult because we get all the films in, and I have an editor go through the films. I create this little chart and say, hey, filmmaker, now pick your candidate, right? And they might be like Jane Smith, and there might be 5 actresses in that, so we might have the wrong person. So instead, for the actors, we're like, identify the person. If you have a headshot, cool. If you don't, tell me exactly where on the video is that actor working, so that my independent industry judge can get this sheet of paper. We do a grouping, right? Like, here are all the candidates for Best Actress. And then when they go through each film, they know exactly which actress we're talking about. They can't tell from the credits, right? So this is a little time consuming, and we're doing it under this mad rush. Now, if you want my documents, I have Photoshop. I don't know whether you guys do use Photoshop, but I have Photoshop for every category that you can plug and play. You know, we've done the work for you. It's all up to you. You could do it in PowerPoint, you could do it in Word, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be wildly sophisticated. And then we're really big in honoring everyone. We honor the audience, we thank them for being here, we honor all the volunteers, we do an audience award where they can, you know, vote on their phone. We do a Producer's Choice Award where the other filmmakers, they get a Willy Wonka ticket and they get to vote. And that's the big prize. The other 9 people get to vote for their favorite film. And sometimes a filmmaker's really smart and he solves problems for the other filmmakers, because we have these collaborative mentoring sessions, and I give them each other's emails addresses, and they're like, hey, I need somebody to be my lead, and another filmmaker will be like, yeah, that's cool, I'll help you out. And so somebody wins $800 just by being like a good film or the most helpful person. So that, I never thought to have an award like that. That was anniversaried in through the years. The last thing that we do is, hold on a second. So you can see down here that picture, that's how we do the vote, you know, like big red number, everybody gets to vote. And while we're tallying the votes, because sometimes it doesn't work, so we have a plan B. We have sheets of paper with little lines next to each name, and you don't need a pencil. You just rip where your selection is, and we collect them. And so while that's being tallied, we have people feverishly in the hallway tallying, you know, 900 slips of paper. We've had to do that once. We're giving away a Hall of Fame award or another type of award, so we're buying time until those things can be counted properly. We much prefer electronic, you know, but sometimes the Crest Theater is a little, the internet. We've sorted it, actually. All of that at the end, the filmmakers don't want to have anything to do with us. They're like, we're done. We can't take this anymore. We've just worked for 4 months doing this, and it was amazing, and we're now just fried. So I give it a little time, and then I invite them back into the studio, and we take some footage, and we talk about what bloopers and what they would have, you know, helped another filmmaker, and did it in some way impact their life. And I just hold on to those until I like need them for funding. But then you can see, this is just Canva art. We grab a couple of clips, and we, you know, when I'm going back to the Cable Commission for funding, we talk about like the Indian woman down here, she's an attorney, and she wanted to be a filmmaker, and she's like, I'm a filmmaker now. And her film, there were a couple of spots where, you know, I'm like, this should be a feature. This should not be a short, right? And, but what was amazing, she needed to find a transgender Indian person. And so she searched the state to find somebody to play this part. And it brought together so many different Indian communities to be able to produce this one short film. And I think she's shown it at like 50 international. So all of them represent Sacramento. So think about it. So you would think the Economic and Community Development Department would be super happy and shower us with money. They don't. But I could make a play for it, though. Does anybody have any questions so far? Hit me with them.
Approximately, if you could guess, how much staff time does it take for you guys to run an event like this throughout the year?
The whole thing. It's mostly just me. Right, and so, and it's formulaic at this point. So the cast and crew call, right, has a lot of employees. I would say the whole thing in labor is probably about $12,000, given what my salary and my colleague's salary is. Because I went and got a $20,000 grant last year for it. And, you know, these grants are like, give us a receipt. And so I was like, what does this really cost us? And it costs us, the whole thing costs us about $20,000. And $6,500 of it is the Crest Theater. You know, like keeps going up and up and up. And so I keep looking for a new location, but they're either way too big or way too small, right? And so this is the right size theater. They keep getting purchased by new, yeah. So if you can find a location that you can do like a quid pro quo, like I did with the Halloween-a-thon and tagged on to another film festival renting the Barrett Center, you know, you look for those sort of partnerships. You start out where, like you do internally, and then you're like, oh, this is too popular. And then the advertising we do is, we don't spend barely any money on advertising. I'm like, Facebook post, Instagram post, Facebook post. Because we have a community, we have an e-newsletter, we have Facebook, and there's people, once they've come to the cast and crew call, if they're in a film, they wanna see. Now, the biggest flaw about this sort of thing is you're getting people in a film festival who have never been in a film festival, right? So they don't know how to comport themselves. I almost lost funding because 2 years ago, the film commissioner was sitting there with a friend, and people were bad-mouthing a film. And she's like, we can't have, I'm not going to support something. She was embarrassed. Her friend and her were both offended. So what I did was I created this. Hold on a second. I was like, we can't lose the support of the film commissioner, right? So in the beginning of our thing, we ask each film team to do behind-the-scenes photos. So when people come into the theater, there's rotating. They're like, oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. So you're already giving people sort of the endorphin of like, I'm special, I'm dressed up, I see myself working. And then we slip in the sponsors, right? So, and we can use any music for that because we're not filming that. So you're creating a vibe, right? And then that goes away. We do a brand video and we do an etiquette video. So this was last year's. You're welcome to use it.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us on what promises to be a night filled with cinematic triumphs. Many wonderful people have come together and worked countless hours to create the films you are about to enjoy. So sit back, enjoy your drinks, popcorn, and the movies. Now, what we don't want you to do is act like a total by talking during the film and making snide comments about any of the movies. Of course, your critique of the movies is valued, but not in a theater filled with the cast and crew who made the movies. Instead, feel free to share with friends and family on the car ride home. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure whether that would be well received. It was a huge laugh. Everyone so they're sort of tense and they want to be seen, and then this comes on and everybody's like ready for a good time. So we've already come up with a script idea for the next one. I was like, oh shoot, now we have to, you know, every year is hungry. You know, these are filmmakers. They don't want to see a repeat of last year. So I've included this in the Google Cloud. You're welcome to use it. The idea is we're all about sharing what we're capable of doing, okay? So that was a hurdle. So the point is every year there's some stupid ass hurdle, you know? Sorry, I totally said, is that being filmed? Can you cut that out? Forgive me, I'm a production person. Yeah, okay. So please, Randy, you have a question?
I noticed on one of your slides, you showed IMDb. I was wondering
yes.
how that happens, that these films wind up on IMDb?
Yes. So one of the benefits we give the filmmakers, like we're trying to honor everyone, right? So I've hired our old DD and he loves this. So I asked them to give me a Word document, not Excel, that has their cast and crew properly named, because if John Doe is already on IMDb and his name is John V. Doe, when we go to enter it, it creates a problem. So we're trying to teach the filmmakers how to be accurate in the titles that they give people. It can't be Animal Wrangler #2, right? Like, what is the industry expression for that title? And what is the name of the person? And if they have an IMDb already, what is the exact way to name it? Because, oh my God, the next month I get like, that's not the way it's supposed to be. I tried looking myself up, you know, like picture a crew of like 15 people times 10 films, right? But what we try to do is get those up through our account. We have an account because, you know, every time we do a TV show, it could be, we do Game of the Week sports, and so we're considered a legitimate media organization. We have IMDb Pro, and we make sure that we're giving everyone credit. And that's actually the beginning of many people's careers. We are literally a grassroots, we call ourselves grassroots organization, and we have many, many testimonials of people who are professionals now. I went to a networking event and there were about 120 people, and the person who was putting on the networking event winked at me and said, how many people here started, been in a place called Sacramento? And out of the 120, about 90 people raised their hand, and the other people were like from LA transplants because of the fires, and they were like, what's this thing about, right? And so the quality, Randy had said that the quality used to be, you know, it's become more democratized. YouTube tutorials, people can improve their skills, right? Or come to us and improve their skills. And the quality of the films has really been excellent. Now, one of the hard parts is I try to tell the filmmakers again and again and again that we give them 6 months to go ahead and bring their film to any other film festival, but in 6 months we're putting their film up on YouTube. And they don't realize, the new filmmakers are like, oh, okay. And then they come back whining that they want to do more film festivals. And so I say, yeah, for a donation, I'll take it down. And some guy gave me $500. I was like, cool. How long do you want to take it down for? Because I need those up there for social media for the next cycle that I'm doing, right? The next film festival. I want to tempt other filmmakers by putting 1 or 2 up on Facebook. So that's, I've gotten a few donations out of that. I feel like a schmuck, but it's very effective because I warn them throughout the whole process. And so I can give you guys, basically this is a master timeline that all the expectations that each filmmaker has. Tiny is just this is my internal document, like, oh, I have to do these 10 things before I publish this thing. And it goes on for page and page and page, and it includes what workshops are available to them. Now, what we decided to do was change the field equipment that we provide. You know, it's like, we had a field equipment library that was like, meh, and which surprised me, because it's a big, you know, it's a big station. It's not physically big. We don't have a cool studio like you guys have. We have like a studio the eighth of the size of what everybody has. But we decided, hey, let's get dongles and fly cams and, you know, skateboards and whatever we need to help an independent filmmaker, you know, do their thing. And they have 3.5 months to do it, so they just, you know, reserve the space, reserve for their, you know, script run-throughs. I open up for them on weekends. It's like my thing. I'm like, okay, and I end up doing a lot of weekends where I'm working because they need to borrow the studio. So that's another plus for them. You know, normally you'd have to be a member and you'd have to do this, and we're not making these filmmakers be a member. If they want to borrow equipment, they have to be a member. And now we have prime lenses and cool cameras, and yeah. So we're trying to basically lean into it. Stop asking me questions. Does anybody have any questions? Randy.
As far as you know, do these films have to go through a film festival to make their way toward the Oscar shorts?
You know what, I wanted to, after your comment today, there's like certain places that get selected to submit to the Oscars. And I'm like, how do I do that? How do I?
It's called an Oscar qualifying film festival, Randy. So the problem is that the Academy is not currently accepting any new Oscar qualifying film festivals. But that's one way to
So like
qualify.
Mill Valley or something like that?
Pardon?
Would that be one like Mill Valley?
Yeah, most of them are all grandfathered in. I tried to get in Oscar qual like 12 years ago, and they're like, dude, you're so late. But every now and again, they'll open it up, and when they do, if there's a window, and you kind of meet the qualifying Academy criteria, then what happens is, and then you get more submissions because people want to be Oscar qualified, right? Which means that the film will immediately become in consideration for short, Academy Award short.
So
Now,
maybe,
that's thousands of other films still, but
so if I rally all the community media centers behind me, do you think I could do it, you know?
possibly, it's just that they're all filled up at the end. It's just you have to wait till the window's open.
Yeah, we don't.
I've got I can get you hooked up with the Academy people.
Cool, that would be nice. Repetition.
Is this online that where you can see all of the Oscar qualifying film festivals?
Yes, the Academy lists it. It's like, they're all there. And every film festival's going to tout it to the heavens too.
Okay.
You'll know if you're in an Academy qualifying festival or not. But they could
We're
make it
Academy
for
quality.
BCS,
Quality.
and then if
Yeah.
they submit it, subsequently to another film festival,
Make
they're
sure
in.
that the
So,
winners get.
so
the
it's
list.
not that they can't get Academy qualified because they're in PCS, because it's not. If they later submit it to another Academy qualified festival, then they're in.
So just let me give you one scenario. I'm shocked how many people have started their acting and/or video careers at our film festival. Because when I first came to the organization, there were no testimonials. I'm like, wait, you've been doing this for 20 years and you don't have any testimony? Oh, we filmed the event. I'm like, okay. And I couldn't find any of the posters. I only have posters from the last 4 years. And I couldn't find any of the videos. Because I thought if I did a retrospective, the short thinking is they were on VHS and, technology has changed. I mean, granted, the quality of some of the older ones were, wobbly. But, this is archivable stuff about the community that I should have access to and don't. So we dug through every file we could find. We dug through every box of VHSs, and we only have a few years' worth. Yeah, it's sad. Anyway, but these are the sort of things that you think you're doing at one time, and then, 20 years later, you're like, that guy left and it was on his computer, right? A lot of that going on,
I'm telling you, Donna, we categorize on DVD and VHS every year, every festival. It was in the cabinet behind my desk. I don't know what happened to it.
Yes.
All the way up until 2005.
Historical. I weep. But anyway, so it's a pretty comprehensive year-round thing, and I'll share everything that I do. Oh, there is one testimonial I want to tell you. Okay, so 2 years ago, a guy calls me. He's never made a film. He said, I want to submit a script. I wrote it with my buddy, but he just passed away. And so I want to submit it in honor of him. And I was like thinking, okay, either that's true or he's stealing some dead guy stuff, right? So, so I was like, yeah, you can submit it posthumously, So he submitted it with both names. He won, and it was called Becoming Santa, and he had the most extraordinary Santa cast ever. And he owned a company that professionally put lights up. Okay, so he had access to thousands of lights. There's one scene, he's like, yeah, that's my backyard in July. He said that he thought the neighbors thought he was crazy that he was putting thousands of lights up. Anyway, he submits it. He asked me not to air it for a while because his daughter is the key actor and she's young, and he wants to promote her. She got work from Disney and Nickelodeon as a result of it, right? A little preteen. And he brings it to a Hollywood Grauman's film festival, and Hallmark comes up to him and says, hands him their contact information and says, write me a full feature script. Now, what happened to that after that? And so he got together with his filmmaking team. So he surrounded himself with more experienced filmmakers, and they did this amazing job. And it's a good movie. It won our audience favorite. You can see it on our YouTube channel. It's absolutely Hallmark sappy. You know, it's just their thing. He could easily write a script for Hallmark. So I don't know what happened after that, but it's just being offered the opportunity, right? It's as far as we can help people go. And so every once in a while I hook up with old filmmakers and I say, can you give me a list of all the film festivals that you sent it to afterwards? Because I want to go back to our funders and say, with all those little wreaths, there's thousands of them, right? And the filmmaker is always a slacker and says, oh yeah, I'll send you a list, and never does. So I'm like, stock. Yeah, please.
How about in the age of AI, you have a box now that says, you know, you've used AI assistance in writing the script to do.
We haven't done that yet.
So
It's something that's
Using it now to.
right now. We were talking about it, and the deadline is actually Monday, right? And some years I get a lot of scripts, and I'm afraid because I'm like, how many? I have 16 judges who are willing to help me, but what happens if I have 100 scripts come in? Then I need another 40 judges, right? Because I want 2 independent judges for every 10 films. Sometimes I go back to the independent judges and say, you want to do another round, right? And sometimes I say to a teammate, you have any time to read 10 scripts? Because, you know, I never know how many I'm going to get in. And so to me, that's one of the hardest things. But when you get to the specialty awards, the best actor, best this, best that, I use one industry professional. Because when you have 2 that disagree, they have to have a conversation together. You can't just average out the numbers that they, you know, it's taste, right? And I want somebody who does it for a living. So I have one person who does the acting and one person who does the technical. And they're usually a pretty big person who's, you know, been in the industry for a while. And it's so much easier for me to, and I do tell them, I put my thumb on it a little by saying, now remember, there is going to be one film that stands out, but we want to celebrate a variety of young filmmakers. So they might want to give the award to like all the technical awards to one, and I see they vacillate and they'll like give best editor to somebody else, and they'll give best set design to I have a set designer who does set design award separate from the technical. Anyway, you learn over the years how crazy it can be. Yeah.
What kind of, do you find any worth in having them do like a whole press kit of participants?
Say that louder, because I'm a little deaf.
Sorry.
I no longer edit, because I'm like, what?
For example, in San Jose, we do kind of a smaller scale program, but I'm having those poor kids do like a whole press kit.
Oh, to go pitch their...
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing to do.
Or for that, or in your case, where you're really just doing a poster, does that usually work out as enough for you?
Well, my poster is just, it's the thing that it's a little late, right? I want to be able to smear that poster on every campus and the problem is, if I had them tell their ideas to my artist and my artists do 10 posters, I could get that much earlier and my distribution could be more physical. But instead I want them to learn the process of finding an artist I want them to learn that collaborate with local musicians, collaborate with local artists. Some of them are like, I got this off of Storyblocks, but I sort of give this lecture of like, when you meet other creative people, gather their information to you. I had a professor, I shot a video for him, and then he gave me all this work. He was like, it was a music professor, and he was like, hey, the local orchestra is losing funding. Do you want to do a video of the local orchestra? Hey, da, 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 da. And then I ended up doing all these, what do you call it? Not Kumon, children's violin, what's the famous, Suzuki. So then I started doing videos for every Suzuki school. right? You do one thing, and if you do it well, and if you're reasonable, and if you are professional, you get more work, right? So I didn't answer your question. I'm so sorry. But, anytime you force a person to focus on their creative project, so it's probably an exercise that's worthy of doing, right?
And then, my
Go
bad,
ahead.
I'm sorry. We also have Davey Ramirez right behind you, our education specialist at CMAC. He runs Youth Voices along with somebody else. Same kind of program. We have students making, not posters, but they write on their own description, just so it's an easy summary for us. We do the posters for them, just because it makes it easier, because you're working with children, right? Like, they're not going to know the best eye for graphics or anything. We just have them write us the description, tell us your movie. They do it twice. They do it once when they do their application, and then they do it again once everything's done, just in case anything changes. Our Youth Voices program is more documentary based, so sometimes things happen. For example,
You mean all the time?
yeah, one student wanted to do it about, or he started off trying to do slang, and then he lost all of his footage. Like, that stuff happened, so he kind of made it a short, simple edition, totally changed it. But we had him just give us that new description, and then we had like a pamphlet like that given out at the screening with all the students with their faces, with their movie, and giving it to them as a memento. I see the benefit of that, so they have that opportunity to also just reflect in general on their project, and it makes it easier as us as staff, because we're not writing it in for them or doing stuff, basically putting words in their mouth. We're letting them speak their voices in another way by just doing that with them.
Yeah, it's really just self-esteem boosters, right? So I show them that, we call it a log line, right? And so basically, can you describe it in a sentence or two, right? And it's really hard for people to do if they're not used to doing it. And now it's easier with AI, but they'll write me a log line, and then I will recommend possibly changing it this way or this way, and they get to decide, do I keep my regular line? But I'm like, it really can't be more than 2 lines, right? Because it has to fit in this format. And then I use it, I do a press release, I use their log lines, I put it on our website, and I make them get their own email address for their production. I was like, don't give away your email address. There's creepers, right? And people can go onto the website, see the log line, and click on the name of the film to contact you if they want to participate if they didn't go to the cast and crew call and yet they want to participate in your film. So you do a unique production, it's a Gmail account. It's super easy to create. And then this way, the community has a way to link to the filmmaker.
Quick, can I get the HDMI?
Oh, wait. What
the-
am I doing?
The HDMI for the
Oh,
TV.
you want this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Just one last thing that I want to promote as well, that we do at CMAC. And it's not a film competition. It's not something that's crazy. We do a monthly filmmaker meetup. And this gets everybody started. Fresno State has a cinema, or not cinema, they've barely started their film studies. We have a lot of ND filmmakers in Fresno who have little to no budget. And we are also, again, beginning, as Donna said, I am starting off also hosting film competitions. This is last year's 72-hour film race was my first film race hosting. CMAC has done it for years, but again, hiatus, and then things change. AI is an issue. We received a film that was totally created with AI. Horrible, if I'm gonna be honest. That's for this room and this room only, but it's something that we also that's their freedom.
camera.
And for the camera. But it's basically, they did an animatic basically using that TikTok, Pixar feature, and then just did robotic voices behind it.
But it's a new form of creativity.
Yeah.
A slacker form, but still a new
Yeah,
form of
we
creativity.
weren't gonna reject it, but it's just, that's gonna be out there. I didn't catch this woman's name, but she brought up a good point. Like, do we put out now on forums that if this was done by AI, But like, I think that is a benefit, but also it's going to be hard now, especially in script writing. How do you prove that? There's even like education spaces, they use AI trackers, but they're not always right, or they don't always catch everything. At this point, I'm just taking, personally, I'm just taking it to, you mean well, I trust you. But,
You could have a category, actually. I know
Yeah.
photography now, they have like categories where AI influenced photographs, because it's the acknowledgement of the evolution of creative technology, right? I think it's bad for your brain, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you need to like exercise the creative part of your brain, right?
but yeah, but going back to the CMAC filmmaker meetup, this is a free event where we're not giving anybody prompts. We're just giving them an opportunity to screen their films. So whether or not they're in a circuit, whether they just started out, we're doing really good with this. We're getting our numbers. I co-hosted with Andrea, our event coordinator at CMAC. And our whole team is behind it, supporting it, and it's free for the public, and they just show up. A lot of people are getting started with this. People's acting careers are starting. We had people from Merced show up, actors who were like, we're doing, Merced has a 48-hour film race that's pretty big. George Lucas, you know, that crazy stuff. They came to Fresno just to contact for that. This is a nice opportunity where it takes a little money to do. It's just staff time. We put up a projector and just say, send us stuff, send us YouTube links.
Do they critique it, or they just show it?
We're just showing it. Again, we do get those outliers, the film bros, if anyone knows the lingo, of those people who are like, this isn't cinema, this isn't film, this is trash. Why am I watching an iPhone footage? And I have to go up to them and tell them, this is people's first time. They're gonna get there. They're getting the steps.
Wait, do we call them something other than film bros?
I don't know if they're anything, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but you can take my etiquette video and film that
Yeah,
first.
100%, I'm taking that. We're taking that because we do get a lot of those people, because they see the word filmmaker and go up class. You know the typical person who's like, oh, I shoot red because some reason, and then they don't know how to color grade. I've had those people come in before, had argument with staff about, well, why are you using Blackmagic? That's a cheap company. Meanwhile, Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras started a lot of people's careers.
Oh my God, and I still consider that high-end.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to, you know.
But it's a good way to get people in the doors. If you're doing it at a community media center, open up a studio space, open up a general, whatever, meeting space. Put a TV. We've done it where our studio space was filled from something else. We just put on a TV. People enjoy coming together.
Right. I think that people's stress level is very high, right?
Yeah.
Post-COVID, still sort of like, I was sort of apprehensive. I was like, oh, who's going to get me sick now? You know, that sort of thing. And so to come up with opportunities where you're not drinking, you're not doing anything dangerous, you're just coming together over something common, you know?
Yeah.
Film is sort of a cool thing, but engaging the people, because everybody will watch, and then the introverts will go away. And instead, so what we're going to do this year, we're developing our thing, our PCS Film Festival, and I've decided it's our 25th year, so how are we going to celebrate it? And the night is already too long, right? At a premiere, you're like, when are the awards? So I try to keep it at a brisk pace. So a month before, we're going to collaborate with 2 other nonprofits that do film development in a big space. Won't cost me anything because it's at somebody else's space. And we're going to have this networking event. Now, normally at networking event, you pick up I'm an actor, next person. I'm so-and-so, next person. I want like 500 people there. I don't want 100 people there. So I got to figure out a new system. So I thought, well, maybe like a printed index card, and if they meet 7 new people and put their email address and what they do, they can submit that and win some piece of equipment. Right? So those who are introverts don't have to do anything, but those who are extroverts and want equipment would basically gather information, right? And then I can use that information to talk about, buying tickets for the film festival. There are people, right? So trying to gather their email addresses is a good thing. Anyway, I like you because you keep shaking your head yes. I like affirmation. Is anybody else? So don't be intimidated by the hyper long thing that we create. It evolved over years, and just use the stuff that, so if you want to give me your email address, I'll send you a Google link and use what you want, and don't, like, we used to pay for their insurance. And our insurance kept going up, and I was like, I don't trust these 10 people. They're going to stand in the street and get hit by a car, right? So I finally last year said, okay, here are all the insurance agents. Costs very little money. You pick your days that you're filming, right? And you get insurance for those couple of days. And it might cost you $20 a day. It might cost you $30. It depends on where you're doing it and what you're doing. And we had the film commissioner waive the film permit fees, but they have to prove their insurance to the film commissioner, get the permit, right? So we're trying to teach them how to go through all the steps to actually be a pro, right? They hate doing it, but hi, Marty, please. There's somebody who's, yeah, we'll do, yeah.
Just a quick question.
He's been hanging his hand.
The filmmaker meetup, do you ever run into people being, like, you're not putting the films on the channel, or are you?
If they submit it for playback, yes. Other than that, because some people do, sometimes they do this as a screening that's not within a film circuit, so they're able to show their friends and family what they made. So I try not to, without the permission first. That's something I want to do change this year, is actively putting these screens on, or short films on the channel with asking beforehand, just letting them know within their submission form this might happen. But again, like I said, there's some people who do go through circuits and they're just like, I just want this for my family, and just show my community that I made it. Fresno is not big. Fresno is not very filmmaker heavy. There is a lot of filmmakers though, but then they go out to LA, Sacramento, Merced, the bigger circuits where they are. So I try to just keep it as local as much as we can, especially because I'm glad to hear your film commission is very active. Our film commission just ghosts us, and
It took years to find the right commissioner, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know actively. Our commission website is still stuck in the 90s or early 2000s.
Cool. But then they're not hassling you on the street.
Yeah. Also, the other great part of Fresno, you don't need a permit to film anywhere. All of the county is free. They try to promote that to get Hollywood out there. That's why Marvel's filmed in Fresno and Disney's filmed in Fresno. But
Cool.
yeah.
But I'm curious, the meetup is, do people network afterward and say, hey, that was
Yeah,
a cool film?
it's all a
and-
networking opportunity. So we do it 30 minutes beforehand. They get prepared. They just see each other. It's very shy. We screen the films. They open up. They're wearing badges that says, hello, my name is blah, blah, blah. And then we have them put whatever positions that they're interested in on the bottom. So if you want to be a sound editor, if you want to just do, in general, just do sound, you just put sound. If you want to be a DP, you just want to be a grip, you just want to be there, go ahead and say that. And that's part of the quote that I put up there. We just had our first filmmaker meetup of the year on Friday. We had somebody who came from the first one. He met his actor there, and his actor got him his co-host or co-star for the short film, got him her contact. He got his director from the filmmaker meetup, created a film, and then they submitted it this month. And that was a purely filmmaker meetup, mixer created film. And that was something me and Andrea, we were both really proud of this is working. Because when we were coming out of college, we didn't have opportunities like this.
You gotta make your own opportunity.
Basically, yeah.
It's 3:00, so if people need to go do raffle, Randy, could
You
you?
must be present to win, and
Could-
there's several TVs given away.
Okay, so maybe if anyone has additional questions while we're waiting with, we don't have tickets, I guess, while we're waiting to find out whether we won anything, you're welcome to talk to us further. But if you want to take a sample of